think Jehu or someone, or I don't know, some people were kind of confused because Pamphlets DM'd me and he's like, wow, I like how you guys are doing this ACP thing, and there was some concern about Maga communism. And I was like, yeah, well, Maga communism was just a slogan, and even a kind of meme. And then he shared that, and then so people are like, they're like, oh, so Haas, you're claiming that you were just joking the whole time? And you weren't serious? Okay, well, clearly I was serious. Clearly I was serious about MAGA communism, but that doesn't change the fact that it was a meme. And then you put two and two together, and what am I actually saying? I'm saying that memes are dead serious. In the information age, memes are not just jokes, as funny as they can be. And there is, of course, always an element of irony in a meme. Memes are dead serious. And I can actually prove that and explain that theoretically, which is what I wanted to do last time, but which I forgot to do. So let me explain what a meme actually is. Now, sit down and don't fall asleep and, pay close attention to what I'm going to tell you. There is an established and, most importantly, accredited way by which we make sense of the world as a given society. And notice I use the word accredited, given its proper credentials by institutions. And obviously, in a Western society, in capitalist society, let's say, that is the view of the institutional bourgeoisie, right? Which is, of course, one-sided and undialectical. It's a view of reality. It's even an ontology, if you want to call it that, according to which everything real conforms to the self-same rigidity and identity of a concept or an idea, right? So for something to be real, it is a self-same form. This is the basic precept of the idealist outlook that underlies bourgeois civilization, if you can call it that, right? So it's a view of reality according to which contradictions have no place. It's a view of reality according to which reality consists in the self-same consistency of form, right? Insofar as the content of reality can be validated according to a preconceived form, it is real. That's why in bourgeois metaphysics, and Lenin will write about this too when he's critiquing the skepticism of empiricists or whatever, they will really say, oh, the truth is not real. Nothing is real actually, because we can't actually say anything about reality because, our measurement of reality is always imperfect and it's always subject to change. We don't know for certain if that's actually the truth of reality. It's always subject to change, and so on and so on. Lenin is dealing with something much more specific, right? Imperial criticism. But this is the basic kind of positivistic outlook, which, it claims to reject metaphysics, but it's basically a view of reality according to which, you have a preconceived kind of method, and as far as the content of reality conforms or can be validated by that method, it passes the test of being real, right? But this is kind of the official, legitimated and accredited metaphysical view of reality, right? So this is the default view of institutions. Anything that doesn't pass through the test of this kind of originating in empiricism, but today they'll call it, fucking post-positivism, whatever. But anything that doesn't pass the criterion of self-same formal rigidity, first of all, does not have the status, metaphysical status of reality. And so nothing can actually pass through that. What they will say is, okay, this has credibility. There's evidence for this, right? Experts agree. They legitimate and they entertain this. So we don't have absolute proof of anything, but at least here they're onto something, right? Because of the scientific method or something. I'm kind of botching and very, very radically simplifying this. Okay, so there's a conventional way in which we accept, there's an authoritative way in which reality can be made sense of. So what are memes? Well, in essence, a meme is it's a way of representing reality that, for whatever reason, for one way or another, right, cannot be reduced to the form of conceptual thinking, to the self-same consistency of a concept. For example, look at the Chad in the Soy Jack meme, right? It's like something about that just makes sense, right? It just makes sense immediately. And then after the fact, you'll twist yourself in a pretzel trying to explain that by reducing it to the form of conceptual thinking. The minute you try to explain a meme, like rationally or logically, is how people would put it, something about the meme gets lost. Something about what it actually is gets lost, right? Well, why is that? Because according to bourgeois rationalism and the narrow sense of logic within idealism, the undialectical idealism, I should rather say, things must conform to the law of identity. They must be formally self-same objects, right? They must kind of have the quality of conceptual and logical and formal consistency. And anything that doesn't have that isn't real. Now, in everyday language, in our everyday intuitions and our everyday experience of reality, propositional logic is not what has supreme significance, right? I mean, like, people will say as well, you can be like Spock from what's his name? Spock from Star Trek, where I'm just going to think logically. Or, but we're humans and we're animals, so we have passions and we have emotions. So there's this distinction between, like, the pure logical thinking and the animalistic, passionate animal side. And that's how most people reconcile the obvious inability for one-sided, formalistic, rigid thinking to actually be applied to how, in our everyday sense, we experience reality, right? But that's just a complete nonsense cope. The passionate, contradictory, and whatever emotional side of the human psyche is not animalistic. Animals don't dream like we do. They don't fixate on desires and fantasies like we do. They don't have this kinds of angst that we do, right? They don't have drives like we do in the sense of psychological drives. They don't have pathological psychological fixations, okay, which clearly disturb the integrity of any kind of serene, stoic, conceptual thinking or rigidity. Animals are animals, sure, but animals are not like crazy, okay? They're not like the animals you see on TV, like where there's a shark attack on TV and the shark is just so angry and it's so aggressive. It's like, have you ever seen an animal attack another animal, like a predator versus prey? It's very quick and it's very snappy and it's not really persistent. I never see persistence. I never see the tiger like trying to break through a door, trying to at all costs like attack someone like a monster does. That is something different. That's like the Freudian death drive. That's not what bestial animals do. Bestial animals will go up to prey. I mean, like, they'll try and then they'll fail and they'll just turn around and just give up and sit down and chew grass. I don't want to even talk about this vulgar topic, but trust me when I say this. You want to understand what separates man from animal? Man tries repeatedly after getting rejected. The animal doesn't. Animals really are quick to give up. They're very quick to give up. Like, no matter what it is, no matter what we're talking about here, getting food, whatever, they're very quick to just give up. Because there's not a pathological fixation for them. It's not a psychological fixation that they're obsessing about and fantasizing about and having desires about and having these kinds of drives, death drive about. It's more kind of just a snappy affect that they have, which is very ephemeral and very, very much not something that lasts forever, right? It's very temporary. Men look at the sky. It's not what I'm saying at all. It's kind of fucking retarded, honestly. It's not what I'm saying at all. Men look at the sky and ponder. I mean, I'm not fucking saying that. I'm saying human beings have angst, okay? Human beings have a death drive where, like, it's that compulsion to repeat that animals do not have. All right. Anyway, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. All right. Animals don't have a subconscious either. All right. Anyway, I want to talk about this vegan stuff and tread these old waters. I'm just trying to explain how in the Western prevailing Reddit, let's say, approved form of making sense of reality, we tend to throw different aspects of experiencing reality into two boxes. The pure logical side, like Spock. Anonymous,
Maga,
what's up?
Communism is a meme. American Communist Party is the future.
Thank you for the 5, appreciate you. We tend to have two categories. We categorize different aspects of our humanity. The Spock logical way, which is, totally robotic and formalistic and mechanical, and then the emotional way, which is animalistic and irrational. And the truth is, both of these are false categories, which just reflect an inability to understand what reason is, an inability to understand what the human actually is. You're torn between these two false categories. This, first of all, a false category of what true reality is. Truth. Everyone agrees, the truth is Spock from Star Trek. It's the formalistic, mechanical, robotic view of reality. But we have this animalistic warm side, so that's why we're imperfect. As if God is like an analytical philosopher nerd, and because of our animalistic past, we're just too imperfect to be like God is, who's like Spock from Star Trek. He's like a big computer or something. That's satanic nonsense. No, the truth is, it's a false notion of reality. That's the problem. It's a notion of reality as such, which doesn't include contradiction. Which doesn't include, the kind of Freudian death drive, let's say. Or the Hegelian, right? The Hegelian contradiction as such within it. Actually, I think this is why the Hegelian e-girls are really disturbing everyone. Because why are they Hegelian e-girls? Think about it. Because Spock, who is the mechanical, formalistic, whatever, the logical side of things, and then there's the female, emotional side of things. And it's like, here come the Hegelian e-girls, who are totally messing that up. They're actually insisting upon the fact that at the level of logos, at the level of truth itself, actually, no, Spock is wrong, and that Hegel, who is this kind of quintessential hysteric, like that's what Zizek says at least, actually Hegel is correct, and Hegel is the one who can include and account for the so-called feminine side of things, the emotional, the irrational, whatever, and include that within this kind of notion of what truth and reality is. So to me, it makes a ton of sense why that phenomena is making the waves that it is and disturbing so many people, because according to the prevailing view of reality that's sanctioned institutionally and even in a sense civilizationally, reality is something one-sided and sanctioned by institutions and subordinated to conceptual thinking, right? The terms of reality as subordinated and reducible to the form of a concept, as opposed to the more kind of libidinal, kind of objects of desire and drive, and this something, the kind of object A that makes more sense in the digital age, which clearly that's not reducible to a concept. Like, look at any given meme, the Soyjack meme. That's the concept has a lot of explaining to do, which just takes too long. But how you intuitively make sense of that is just very quickly, right? So what's going on here? What is a meme? A meme is a more direct and immediate expression of signifiers. Signifiers, in the Lacanian psychoanalytic sense, signifiers are inherently contradictory, let's call them formations within the unconscious, right? Symptoms of the unconscious would be more accurate, but to simplify it for you, I'll say formations, which are how should I say it? Saying formed would not be really correct. Saying reflect would not be totally correct either. They are bent and warped in the shape of the contradictions, not only within reality, but the inherently contradictory nature of our relationships with those reality at the level of our activity as human beings. Let's put it that way. So that's what signifiers are. They're more fundamental ways in which reality is structured within our subconscious. Let's put it that way. And signifiers are inherently contradictory. Although they make sense to us, but when you reduce them to a form of a concept, which is a secondary form of activity. So put it this way, there's a primary type of activity, unconscious. It's the sphere of what Freud calls the death drive, right? Which is a more fundamental relationship to the world and to reality and to how it's structured, so to speak. Like the Marxist relations of production, right? And then there's a secondary activity, which is consciousness, which is how we reflect that in our minds and in our heads. So this is the kind of issue philosophically, a lot of people have. They're like, okay, what is it? Is it first there's a reality and then our minds reflect the reality? And then, you have this dualism between the world of reason and the world of logos and the world of nature and the world of chaos or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that consciously, what our minds are reflecting consciously is not just a purely external reality. It's also a reality we ourselves are culpable in structuring and creating just in ways that are not voluntarily or consciously prefigured or known by us. So Marx says, men and women make history, but not as they please. So we are the ones responsible for creating the reality, that we try to then consciously understand. It's just that we don't create that reality voluntarily. We don't create it according to a plan we have beforehand. We are thrown into it, so to speak, before we have the time to draw conscious conclusions about it. Okay, so keep that in mind. So memes, because of the information age, and what do you think information is? Memes have a much more proximate and direct relationship to the realm of unconscious signifiers. They are these immediate phenomenal expressions of unconscious signifiers that bypass conceptual or rational thinking. I put rational in parentheses because I reject both bourgeois rationalism and irrationalism. They're two sides of the same coin. There is a rationality, so to speak, of, let's say, the symbolic order, which isn't reducible to a self-relation of ideas or concepts. Okay, so that's what memes are. And as such, they're inherently contradictory. And why memes have acquired so much relevance is anytime there's this new development in reality that our institutions can't make sense of, right? That the authoritative and established and conventional way of making sense of reality can't account for, the immediate reaction we have to that is irony. It's ironic. And so we make fun of it because it's funny. I mean, look at Trump. There's an established and conventional way of American presidential elections and campaigns. And then here you have Trump, and it's like, what the hell? This is so out of place. It's like, this is funny. It's funny how much this is out of place from what it's supposed to be, right? So that's why Trump like was a living meme, because there was something about him that was just like not just novel and new, but new in a way that couldn't be accounted for according to our conventional way of making sense of reality. So he acquired the status of a meme. But literally every single meme is like that. For example, even the first memes, I remember them, I was in high school, like a boss. What were those memes called? Rage comics. What was so funny about those memes? Not funny, just potent. What was so potent about those memes? Well, the potency of the memes consisted in the fact that somehow, for whatever reason, these silly little comics and photos could capture and encapsulate our moods and, dispositions and sentiments and emotions in a much more kind of raw and effective way than like rational, conceptual kind of self-expression could. And something about that was funny to us. There was something funny about how I could draw a stupid face and it's so relatable, and it's even more relatable than if I tried to rationally explain it. And according to our, let's call it idealist prejudices, that's not supposed to be the case. And yet, voila, here it is. Neil deGrasse Tyson going, whoa, we got a badass over here, somehow is more relatable than, just spelling it out rationally. And it's like that to us was something ironic and funny. So it was a meme. So all memes, that's all memes are. That's all they are, right? Anyway, so that's all memes are. That's all they are. And okay, so we know that they're related to irony, and this is a kind of ironic way of giving expression to this. And the fact that ironic is funny and is the default way is because it's enjoyable, because it's a way for us to enjoy. It's because it's a way for us to enjoy that, because the information age and social media and the internet, it's been very disorienting, and it's caused a lot of changes in reality that we don't immediately have ways of making sense of, according to the conventional and accredited and officiated established way. So it's a way for us to kind of feel like the authority is being embarrassed. It's a way for us to feel like the experts and the scientists and the academics and our teachers at school and the president himself is being humiliated and embarrassed by something that makes sense to us, but which they're not able to explain. Hot take, what's up? It's like there's nothing funnier than the emperor wearing no clothes. There's nothing funnier than like if you're in high school and like the teacher, like their pants fall down or something. It's like, it's funny. It's not supposed to happen, but here we are, right? That's what memes are. That's why memes have been such a vector in the direction of the far right. Because when it comes to political taboos, which don't necessarily have positive content, it's not like the far right is offering like a new vision of society in the world. It's more like they're offering a kind of embarrassing attempt to humiliate at all costs everything the authority, let's call it, stands for, which is liberal society believes. So all of the antisocial taboos, when given political expression, that's why the right wing owns the meme game, right? Until we came along, it took a Lacanian to understand what's going on and totally destroy them. Anyway, keep talking about this because it's really important when it comes to the Maga communism thing. So this is what memes are. So although they're funny and they're ironic, it's dead serious about what's going on, right? Memes they're giving expression to and they're representing, let's say, signifiers in ways that there are no conventional means to make sense of, in a way that's compatible with the let's call it the fundamental fantasy of liberal society. And not just liberal society, but capitalist society as a whole. I mean, we're entering a new mode of production with this information age and the fourth industrial revolution and so on and so on. Social media, it's a total game changer. And the old way of making sense of the world, all the old ideologies, all of the everything is just a kind of joke. So the takeaway here is it's like a more direct, raw feed into the symbolic order, bypassing conceptual mediation. And, conceptual mediation, those are the academic institutions, those are the scientific institutions, those are the political institutions, all built upon this kind of basis of idealism. And it's just totally being bypassed immediately, just like directly, right? And that's what it is. Memes connect you to the Platonic world of ideas. Artist, how badly should I roast you right now? Let me see. Artist, I get that you're a sub and you've gifted subs, but I'm going to be fair and just say you are really fucking it up. Like, big time. And, like, let's say, I don't even know, like, you should go to fucking jail for saying that. If I was dictator, you'd be in jail for saying that dumb shit. The Platonic world of ideas. Isn't that kind of the opposite of what I'm trying to say, though? Aren't I trying to say that ideas and concepts are the result of a more secondary type of conscious mental activity? And that the order of signifiers, that's not a Platonic realm of ideas. It's a more fundamental kind of unconscious structure of reality that's born of our material relationship to the world and to ourselves. Those are unconscious symptoms are not ideas. They're not ideas. They are circuits of jouissance, if you will, right? Circuits of enjoyment. They're specific forms, let's call it, of the compulsion to repeat. They are contortions of the underlying death drive, the underlying Freudian death drive. So that is a very different thing than ideas. Platonic ideas, that is some nonsense, okay? Total nonsense. I mean, like, yikes. It's time to take the Aristotle pill too, honestly. It's like Hegel was not really a Platonist. I don't know if you guys know that. Hegel was kind of more like Aristotle. Hegel didn't believe in Platonic ideas. He didn't believe in the kind of Platonic pretense of eternal ideas that are separate from reality somehow. All the ideality of if you read Hegel's logic, something's ideality is just what it is. And it's inseparable from its kind of worldly reality. It's inseparable. Yeah, I know I've told you to read Plato before as a beginning, because Plato is the beginning, but my Plato is a Scythian Plato. My Plato is a barbaric Plato. My Plato is not a Greek pederast Plato. My Plato is a Mongol Plato. So it's a Zoroaster. It's a kind of Persian fire worshiper Plato. Very different. Very different. I'm a materialist Plato. The Gorillas and Sons, it's a materialist Platonic son. How do you know? Because there's a fucking gorilla in front of it, representing the primordial kind of material humanity. Anyway, this is too advanced for most of you. You get the meme, so it fucking works. You don't even have to know the back end thinking that goes into it. You don't have to, because it makes sense. When you see that gorilla and son, it makes sense. I don't have to explain it to you. It makes sense. Anyway, don't let LaRouche... I don't give a fuck, dude. I mean, that's the problem, is that some people took the stupid claim that we're LaRoucheites seriously, and we're like, all right, we're LaRoucheites now. It's like, but we're not, and we never were, okay? Sorry. Just because I went to a Schiller conference one time in my life doesn't mean I'm a Lyndon LaRouche follower. It just means I'm not allergic to everything he's ever said. Anyway, no, Heraclitus is not. I mean, I don't want to talk about this right now. Anyway, let's go back to the topic of memes and stuff. So what makes MAGA communism a meme? What makes MAGA communism a meme is that, first of all, I was always very upfront about the fact that at the level of conceptual thinking, it is contradictory. I mean, of course it is. But why was it so effective as a meme? Because there was something about it that still made sense at the symbolic level. And a lot of people were literally losing their minds and turning themselves into a pretzel, trying to reconcile the contradiction between, okay, at the one hand, at a conceptual level, this is total nonsense and it's totally stupid. But on the other hand, there's something about this at the subconscious level, our intuitive sensibilities, that just makes so much sense, and it's so persuasive to people. There's something about that just like clicks for people. We're like, you know what? There's something to that, right? But there was no way for people to make sense of it conceptually, right? So that's why a lot of people got Maga communism derangement syndrome. Let's call it that. MCDS, right? Maga communism derangement syndrome. Why did they get that? Because of the contradiction between its value, let's say, at the conceptual level, and its value at this kind of more intuitive level of the signifier. In this sense, MAGA communism was a meme. And also it was funny, and we enjoyed it as a funny meme. But that doesn't mean we didn't take it seriously. Because honestly, if you read the Substack, what was the serious message behind MAGA communism? Like, think about this for one moment. What was the serious message behind it? I said it. I said it the whole time, right? The serious message behind it was that the conventional way in which we make sense of politics in America has broken down. The so-called political spectrum, like, it's no longer it can no longer account for new developments in reality. That doesn't mean left-wing and right-wing are gone, like historically or even in the contemporary moment. That we weren't saying, oh, we transcended left and right. There was a reason I began the Substack saying it's not syncretism. We're not saying we're transcending left and right. We're saying that in America, the conventional and institutionally accredited way in which we've made sense of politics has collapsed, you know? And it's like, that's what it proved. And so that's the negation aspect. What is the positive content of that fact? There's this new form of popular sovereignty called MAGA, cybernetic form of popular sovereignty, and that's our new square one for politics. We don't have to begin with the Democrats or Bernie. We don't have to begin with the Republicans either. We can just begin with this new meme politics of MAGA, because it's not really a meme. And how can I prove to you it's not just a meme? You know what country takes memes dead seriously? China does. Xi Jinping thought, all of the slogans and campaigns, harmonious civilization, Mao Zedong thought, beginning from Mao Zedong thought actually, those are not concepts. Those don't have the rigidity of self-same conceptual forms. And yet at a social level, at the level of all of Chinese society, what is meant by Xi Jinping thought, what is meant by all of these different slogans representing the party's direction and orientation, they all make sense. They don't have the consistency of a pure concept or a pure idea. They don't make sense according to the rigid confines of propositional logic, yet they are just kinds of direct expressions of the symbolic order as it finds reality in China, if that makes sense. Like the reality of Chinese civilization and politics and society. And these memes are not funny in China because there's nothing ironic about them. Because dialectics has become institutionalized in China. Because it's a communist state. It's a proletarian dictatorship. Dialectics are taken for granted by everyone at an institutional level. The fact that there are novel developments in reality, which there was no way to make sense of before, but which now require a new way of giving expression, that doesn't cause turmoil in society. That doesn't overthrow the state. That doesn't cause conflicts. That doesn't lead to a kind of Joker-esque, everything is a joke, meme, ironic. No, I mean, it's just superfluous. They understand that because their very ontology, their very way of making sense of reality is from the outset already dialectical. It's already accounting for the fact that contradictions are real, right? And it's not something that threatens the integrity of civilization itself to them. So memes in China are not funny because there's no need for them to be funny, because they're just what reality is. this more direct way of making sense of new developments within reality, and then the party finally officiating it with slogans and new kinds of thought, Xi Jinping thought, and so on and so on. New synthesis. Marxism, I'll go so far and say something that in some context should get me shot, but as long as I clarify what I mean. Marxism-Leninism is not a philosophy, okay? It's not a concept. It's actually much closer to meme than it is to philosophy. Marxism-Leninism is a direct expression of real political authority and real changes in reality. Like, socialism in one country is not a concept. It was a fact of the circumstances of the Soviet Union at the time. And all Stalin was doing is naming it. It was a meme, if you will. It was a meme that wasn't funny and wasn't ironic, but it was just this more direct and immediate expression of information that comes directly from the source of the unconscious order of signifiers as they were ordered in the circumstances of the Soviet Union at the time. So in communist states, like, memes are not jokes. They're not funny. They're like literally just the default of reality. So we have placed less of an emphasis on MAGA communism now, not because we repudiate the whole thing as a joke, but because we no longer find enjoyment in laughing about it anymore. We are now drawing the serious conclusions and implications from it. And that's what the American Communist Party is. There's no need to call it MAGA communism anymore, like, as much as we do, I guess, because the way we describe and refer to reality and politics, it's like, we don't need to clarify that we're not Democrats. We don't need to clarify that we're not like the DSA. All of those people are scared to call themselves communists in public for a reason. Okay, they're literally called the Democratic Socialists of America. How many of these people are calling themselves communists publicly? And the ones that are, they're very marginal. I'm sorry, but it's like, we don't need. There's enough of a surrealism in an American Communist Party. It transcends memes. It's like, look at our party launch. Look at our party launch video. That's dead serious, but it's somehow not reducible to a conceptual, like, logic of self-same consistency and whatever. But it's like, there's something about it very inspiring, and it's tapping into something. And it's like, it's that kind of new sincerity. It's the post-irony. It's the horizon of a post-ironic era of politics that we are interested in participating and leading, right? So it's like, we don't repudiate our past. Every single one of the memes Infrared launched were necessary to get us where we are now. It's like, just because Stalin wasn't, placing emphasis on collectivization in 1943 in the middle of a war, doesn't mean that he repudiates the collectivization campaign. It means that is a stage which has passed. So I want to be clear about that. Anyway, guys, I hope that wasn't too complicated.